Okay, so building your own game engine. Let's dive in. Goals for this talk, demonstrating why making your own engine and tech can really make sense. So it definitely is a viable option. I think obviously we did it and we have made games, so it is a thing you could do. I want to make you think about game development in maybe a new way. Maybe you haven't really ever thought about what it's like to kind of write your own tech, make your own engine, and just kind of like stretch your boundaries of sort of what you think and what you know about game development, and encourage you to make games, to be passionate about it, and really do cool stuff. So I'm probably going to go through this sort of a quick rate. I've got a lot I want to say, so maybe reserve questions till the end. But then feel free to ask a lot of questions. Come find me if you want. I'll talk about this till your ears bleed. So I love it, and let's go. Okay. So why did I do it? Right. So I began developing my own games in 2008, sort of during the evenings and weekends while I was working at other game companies for my day job. So at the time, there were sort of three main factors that contributed to me wanting to make my own engine. So it was what I was familiar with, right? So I was working at companies in which we made our own tech, we used our own tech and tools and pipeline and everything, and so it's what I knew, all right? So I just kind of kept going. There weren't really as many viable engine options back in 2008. I don't think Unity was around. Maybe it was just getting started. There was like Unreal, maybe Crytek was coming in, Source. But there just didn't seem like anything that really fit what I wanted. And I really don't like my choice of technology telling me what I can and cannot do. So when I was much younger, I tried a couple game engines. When I was really, really young, there's this thing we had called Click and Play. Probably no one knows what that is. You remember that? Okay, Click and Play, right? So you can play these little games, you can make little games. But I kind of got bored very fast because I couldn't do what I wanted, right? I used RPG Maker way back in the day. I think it was like the first version of RPG Maker. And again, I kind of gave up pretty fast because I had this vision in my mind of what I wanted, and I couldn't do it. And if you were in my talk yesterday about Citizens of Earth, you'll know how important I think having like a vision for your game is, really using it to inform all the decisions you make. Sort of, it's a way to communicate what the game's about to people and sort of refine the vision. And that's really important to me. I want to make the games I want to make, not the games that the technology tells me I can make, right? So over time, of course, other engines became more popular, more prolific. Unity, grew a lot, other engines. But there's still reasons that kept me from kind of changing over, and I wanted to keep my own engine. So Waveform was the first game we made, and it was kind of a unique, weird game. If you're not familiar with it, you play as a sine wave, like a wave of light moving through space as a sine wave, and you change like the amplitude and wavelength to kind of line it up with all these objectives. Go through wormholes, bounce off mirrors, everything I guess light does in space. So it really seemed to me that it was unsuited to an off-the-shelf engine, right? This kind of stuff I was imagining I wanted to do didn't seem like the common features that were available in engines at the time. Again, remember this is like 2009 now. And so other programmers I worked with also came from a mainstream development background. I mean, it probably doesn't really surprise you. Since I worked those companies, people I knew that wanted to work with me kind of came from the same experience, same background of using custom tech. And then Citizens of Earth is sort of the sprawling 2D RPG with tech requirements that were far in excess of like RPG-specific engines like RPG Maker, things like that. And I wanted to really push some of the 2D aspects in ways that Unity and things like they weren't really set up for 2D in the way I wanted it. Yeah, so this is why I kind of kept going with my own engine. Another reason, I love programming. When I dreamed of making games as a kid, it wasn't because I wanted to do programming. I just wanted to sort of design, get my ideas out there. But now I really hunger for it. Like if I have to do just design too long, like I have this need, I need to get my hands dirty in the code. I need to bring things to life with my hands, right? And honestly, I really thank God for this because when I went to university to do like math, computer science, I had not done a lot of programming before that. So it's really just by God's grace that, I liked it, I had a passion for it, sort of just, without even me knowing. So I really thank God that it turns out I love it and can do it. So yeah, but I love it. But the thing was, over time, I kind of got bored of doing the same thing. So the programming I love most is game mechanics, AI, player behavior, enemy behavior, right? But over time, I stopped learning. You know, I would implement things for the games I was working on, and it just sort of became routine. Like, so I was working on Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon for 3DS, doing, you know, the like AI for the ghosts. And after a while, it kind of, like, I liked working on the game, but it kind of got a bit boring because I wasn't learning. I wasn't pushing myself to do new things. And it got to the point where I wanted to ask them to let me do like render programming for graphics, even though I had no interest in it. I just wanted to learn new things. I wanted to push myself. And I think this kind of pushing the limits of my knowledge made me not only a better programmer, but a better game developer, right? I learned really how to make games. It was sort of a trial by fire, right? I forced myself to learn more, to do a lot. And you know, when you do start in any development, you do have to do a lot. You probably don't have a big team with everyone specializing in different things. You have to learn and really, you know, get your hands dirty. So when I started, you know, on my game Waveform, I didn't know render programming. I didn't know audio programming. I didn't know memory management. I didn't know tools programming. Like, I didn't know so many things, but I learned it, and I really think it really helped me as a game developer. Kind of what I related to is, you know, in the movie The Matrix, Neo wakes up on the Nebuchadnezzar, and Cypher is looking at the Matrix, and he goes like, "Oh, what are you looking at? It's so weird." He's like, "I don't even see the code anymore. I see red hair, you know, brunette." That's what it's like with my engine. I don't see lines of code anymore. I don't see functions. I see games in there, you know. And like knowing intimately the code lets me like bring to life these things. And sort of how I kind of think about it is like, you know, my games are kind of like my virtual children. You know, I spend years nurturing them, you know, loving them, releasing them into the world. And in a way, my engine is kind of like my virtual wife, right? It's the relationship with my engine that produces these wonderful children. So just, you know, I love my wife more than my engine. You know, it's just an imperfect analogy, but you know, one it's good. You know, it gets you here, right? Okay, what else is coming up here? Okay, so one thing you have to ask yourself, right, is what are your needs, right? Waveform and Citizens of Earth were both 2D games, and I kind of think of them as falling into this kind of weird middle ground between, you know, the powerful, more versatile 3D engines, so Unity, Unreal, Source, right? And then sort of the more simple engines like focused on 2D, be it Game Maker, RPG Maker, these kind of things. And I wasn't really targeting anything that they were sort of built to do. I wanted something that was 2D, but had all these like, you know, crazy features, multiple platforms, right? But if you're making a game that fits into what those engines are offering, I mean, great, maybe that's perfect for you, right? But if you're not, you might be using the wrong tool for the job. So, you know, back on the Xbox 360, a lot of companies were using Unreal, and they made a lot of games that kind of looked and felt and played like Gears of War. And that was not a coincidence. That tech was built for that game. And you can see it in how they made the game. If you wanted to make something different, you had to work around a lot of things they built for that purpose, right? So, you know, you just have to kind of just consider that. So before I go on to the next one thing I want to point out, of course, like, you know, making games costs money no matter what engine you use. If you make your own engine, you're putting in, you know, time, money, you're hiring people. If you're using another engine, you're licensing, right? There's a lot of costs. So either way, we're talking about costs, right? So I did a bit of research into what some of the other costs of engines are. So I'm not necessarily an expert, but here's what I found. So I looked at Unity. So I went to the website, Unity Pro license said it's $125 US a month. And the US dollars is important for me because we are in Canada, and Canadian dollar obviously not as strong. The American dollar, so we're losing on the exchange rate there. Now, I don't know if all staff need a pro license. I don't even know the rules. I know we need probably some, but you know, we have a big team, and I can't imagine Unity would be happy with us like using one pro license and everyone else free and trying to sneak it by them. I mean, it seems a bit dishonest, so I'm assuming we all need pro licenses. So in terms of Citizens of Earth, right, we had about 66 man-months of programmer work. And when I say that, I mean it was a month in which a programmer was working on the project in some capacity, would have needed, you know, to use the engine, okay? Except I used 3 machines for development at home, and I looked and it said Unity can only have 1 license for 2 machines. So I would have needed an extra license for the last year of development because I bought another machine to kind of like do a lot of help my workflow. So there's another 12 man-months. There's about 69 man-months of level design work. And again, do I want my art director to be in the editor? Of course, yeah, he's in there. He's making sure the art's looking good. He's playing the game. There's another 25. So it was about 175 man months, but it's actually overstated because we had a lot of part-timers. So again, if you were in the talk yesterday on Citizens of Earth, you know that our staff was sort of in flux, unstable a lot of the time, and we had sort of redundancies of staff that worked part-time and could kind of come in when we needed them to. But again, that doesn't matter for the licensing fee, right? If you're working on it in a month, you're paying the fee. Doesn't matter if you worked 1 hour, I'm assuming, or 1,000. Well, I guess you probably can't work 1,000, but it doesn't matter, right? Same fee. And then we had post-launch fixes, Japanese version of the game. I don't know, again, maybe 10 man months. So total, 185 man months, 125 US a month. We're looking at 23,000 and change US, about 30,000 Canadian. That is not a small amount of money. It's also not a small amount of money if I did it for every single project. If I make another project about the same size as Citizens of Earth, I'm paying it again. I want my company to grow, right? My team is growing. That's more licenses over time. This number is only going up. So every project I make, I'm spending more and more and more over time. If a publisher is giving me money for a game, and I have to drop 25,000 on an engine or save it on my own, I mean that's a clear savings, right? Okay, then I looked at Unreal. So Unreal is free to use, which I think is somewhat new. I believe you had to pay.
Yeah, it is new.
Yeah. Okay. So it's new now.
When it came in.
Okay. Right. So now it's free, but it takes 5% gross revenue. So I don't know how they define gross, but I'm assuming it means, right, the total revenue of your game. That's before, Valve, Nintendo, Sony are taking their cut, right? So they're taking 30%. You're losing 5% on your gross. If you go to publisher, they're taking their cut, and I'm sure they're not going to share this cost with you. So you're having that burden on your own, unless you're really good at contract negotiations, maybe. So you're bearing the whole brunt of that. And I mean, it's just going to cost you a ton of money over time, right? Especially if you've got a hit on your hands, that's big. It doesn't cost money up front though, so that could be good if you've got more like time and volunteer labor than money. I never could have afforded another 30,000 during Citizens of Earth for Unity. So, it has its advantages, right? But it's not just the real financial cost, there's an opportunity cost. So Unreal probably would have been a bad choice for us regardless, but not least of which because it does not support these platforms we shipped on, Wii U, Vita, 3DS. 3 of the 5 platforms would have just been out, right? 3DS was a big seller for us, and that was an important platform. I mean, Unity doesn't support it either. So again, that would have been bad. Not only because we lose the revenue of that platform, and 3DS was our second best-selling platform, very important, but in the worst case, we would have lost the whole contract with Atlus because they were adamant we had 3DS as a platform. And if we would have said to them, hey, you know what, I understand you've got great reasons for why that is, we can't do it. Like, I really feel they would have said, okay, thanks, but no thanks. Good luck with the game. No contract, no publisher, no game.
Now get out.
Yeah, right? So it's not just like what you're paying for the engine, right? But it's the opportunity cost. What are you missing out on, right? And then there's also future costs. So last month I was at E3 and I met with Nintendo and Sony, and they both had a similar question for me. What was that?
Can you show the last slide?
Oh.
I want to take a picture.
Sure. So, right, I was at E3, met with Sony and Nintendo, and Sony said, are you going to support PS4 Neo? Nintendo said, are you going to support Nintendo NX? And I can say to them, yeah, sure. Give me the SDK, I'll support it, right? And I have the flexibility to do that, of course I can. But if I was using another engine, I say, I don't know. Maybe if the engine supports it, when, I don't know, right? Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the idea of Event Horizon as a Nintendo NX launch title, that's amazing to me, right? Again, not saying that's necessarily in the cards, but having opportunities that pop up and being able to take advantage of them, that's something you can do if you're the decision maker of your tech. If you're not, you have to just wait, hope, pray that the engine that you're using deems it worth it enough to give you that opportunity. And again, I don't like tech telling me what I can and can't do. I want to run my company, make decisions for what's best for us, including what platforms we support. Okay, technology changes. Who here knows the Gamebryo engine? No one.
Like of it?
Sure, of it. Okay, you've heard of Gamebryo, right? Okay, she knows, right?
It's a thing.
It's a thing, and like it was not a bad engine. I mean, it even supported the Wii last generation, which not a lot of engines did. They made some pretty cool games with it. Fallout 3, New Vegas, Civilizations, right? Elder Scrolls 3 and 4, Oblivion, Morrowind. Defense Grid: The Awakening was a pretty popular indie game, right? XBLA. These are some pretty good titles. They're successful. There's mainstream, there's indie. But they have one thing in common. Sequels do not use Gamebryo. Why? Technology changes, right? engines rise and fall. Things that are good yesterday are not good today. Things that are good today are not good tomorrow. So, what do they do with all their code that specifically used Gamebryo, features, the way they had to adapt their coding style for their rendering and memory and everything else? It's gone. Right now they're into something else, which may have been a good decision for them, probably considering the sequels are also pretty good games. But it's still that's tough, right? Technology changes, you throw things out, you start again. So I just want to raise one cautionary point. So I know a lot of people, they love Unity. It's great for a lot of things. And this isn't really anti-Unity, but it's sort of some people's perceptions. So I know a lot of professors that teach university, private, and public schools, and they build their whole curriculum around Unity. And this really scares me because you have students that end up with a degree for a piece of technology that could change with they have no control over that.
I get an amen.
Yeah.
I'm serious. He has something.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I think so.
It's not a little deal, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And again, just pointing out, C#, I think is kind of questionable value in game development in general. It's good for some things, but I don't know. I think it's not the be all and end all, and I think things will change. History shows they change, so cautionary tale, just be careful betting the farm on technology that you do not have control over. Tomorrow Unity could just pack it up and be like, we're done. Thanks for the fun, thanks for the memories, we're out. It probably won't happen, but it could, right? So just be careful. Okay, problems you cannot fix are bad problems. These are not problems you want to have. Inefficiencies you have no way of improving are huge time sinks. So again, we're talking about the cost of technology. It's financial cost, opportunity cost, it's future opportunity cost. It's workarounds that you have to do every single day in dealing with something that has inefficiencies that don't work for you and your team. Okay, this is especially true when you're coming time to ship a game, because as you get closer to ship, you're adding so much content, you're adding art, you're using up memory and resources, and that has a tendency to kind of build until things collapse. But it's also true, every minute of every day you spend working on the game, right? Multiplied by the number of people that have to waste time working around an issue. So you spend minutes every day, your whole team spends minutes every day for years. It adds up, right? So I'll give you one example. We were collaborating with Atlus on the dialogue for Citizens of Earth. We had a couple inefficiencies with kind of the workflow, how we were using the data for we had a big localization table for, again, because it was shipped in, again, English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, lots of languages, a big database for all the text. Found some inefficiencies. I fixed it, right? I changed the way we had our input data, the way it was used in the pipeline. We improved the workflow, we saved time, we improved our relationship with Atlus. We said, hey, we can save you time, we can save us time. They appreciated it, we appreciate it. It strengthened our relationship. It made us work faster and smarter. It's good, right? I can do that because I own the whole pipeline, right, of the engine. Here's an example, okay? Extreme, but not impossible, not even unlikely scenario. Okay, you're preparing a build of your game for release multiple platforms. It's a big undertaking, but Unity targets multiple platforms. People can do it, right? So if you were in my talk again on Citizens of Earth yesterday, you know that platform certification can be rough, right? One issue comes up, you can fail certification, get kicked out, you have to kind of resubmit, go in the queue, wait for your turn. It can be a whole process. I don't know. I said you had to wait another month. I don't know how long it is. It's not often a quick turnaround. So let's imagine further, missing this deadline means you'll be in breach of contract with your publisher. Again, right? Not a situation you want to be in. And suddenly you or, maybe Nintendo, maybe Sony, maybe someone else discovers a rare but reproducible crash. If you're developing for Steam, you can just launch anyway, fix it later. Not really on consoles as much. And unfortunately, the crash is coming from some mysterious place deep in the engine, and you don't have the source code for the engine, right? Is it your bug? Is it a bug in the engine? Can you fix it? Do you have to work around it? Do you have time? This is not a situation you want to be dealing with coming into launch, right? Even if you can fix it, is it going to be such a hack that you make more bugs, more crashes? Right? If you have the code, if you know the code, you can make sure you fix it elegantly, and that it's going to work. The last thing you want is to fix one crash and add 5 more. So this, just making games is hard. It's stressful. When you get to release, it gets harder and more stressful. And adding into it, problems that you can't deal with, I don't know. It's very stressful. It's hard, right? Not something you kind of want to deal with. Okay, I'm going to go a little technical here. The realities of memory. Okay, do you know how much runtime RAM your engine is taking up?
You know.
Yeah, so I was with Clint yesterday. He's using the Godot engine, right? We found out with nothing, no program, right, running, essentially nothing was running, empty game, empty program, it took up 26 megabytes of RAM. I've heard Unity is 32. Now I know maybe you're thinking, that's nothing. But on some platforms, that is a ton. Okay, so I don't know if I can officially tell you how much each RAM is available for different platforms. Wikipedia tells us that the 3DS has 128 megs of RAM in the hardware. Someone cracked it open and discovered that. So that's common knowledge. You can probably assume there's less available to the developer because they have an operating system running on that, while you're playing a game. So if you have 128 minus whatever, and your engine is taking up 32 megs of RAM without doing anything for you yet for your game, that is a very significant chunk, right? Vita also has more memory, but not a lot more. That's tough. If you suddenly cannot, you get 32 megs less of textures and features and things, that takes a big chunk out of the quality of your game. Okay, what's your engine's memory allocation system? Do you know how they allocate memory? Can you even control allocations and deallocations? In C#, you can't, right? You have to wait for the garbage collector to come around and free your memory. So if you load a level in your game and you max the memory, you use every last byte to make it look awesome, and now suddenly you need to load something else, can you unload something to load it in? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you have to wait, try to unload it, wait around, kind of spin for a while till the garbage collector comes around and frees up the memory. Not a great solution, right? Can you use resource pools? Do you even have to allocate memory? Like, do you have options to manipulate it? Placement new, right? Or you're overriding your new and deletes, right? These are just kind of specific examples, but like these are real things that happen, that we've done and other companies, every company I've worked at has done to make sure that you're getting the most out of the platform. Can you exploit the allocation pattern for your game, right? Do you know how you're allocating memory to make sure you're doing it fast, efficient, you're getting all the power out of the system? How many bytes do you need per vertex? Can your texture coordinates be shorts instead of floats, 2 bytes instead of 4? Can your color channels be bytes instead of floats, 1 byte instead of 4? I mean, again, like these are real things we did on Citizens of Earth, like to make sure we can get the most out of 3DS, Vita, out of these platforms, right? And the thing is like I don't think you can just say, well, technology is going to solve it for me. Next generation, there'll be more memory. It's always a precious resource. There's literally never enough. Every game I've ever worked on has maxed the memory on every system. Because when you go to next generation, you don't think, good, I'll make the same game and now it'll be easy. You make a better game, a bigger game, looks better, right? More features, more textures, you really pump it up. And I mean, who knows where the next system's going to be? Like, one of my jobs when I was in university was making visualizations for military aircraft, right? So when they're piloting their plane, I don't know, they're seeing their heads-up display, whatever. Now maybe they're going to play a game on the way back to base. I don't know. Maybe that's the next frontier of gaming is military aircraft. Maybe you're auto-driving your cars while the car is driving you around. You're playing a game on the dashboard of your car, and maybe that'll only have 32 megs of RAM. I don't know, right? But I really just don't think you can rely on technology to solve this problem for you. Like you're always going to want to push the game as hard as you can.
I know you said wait until later, but like someone's figuring that out, the engine maker or somebody. And so without you having any reaction, the engine maker does it the way they want without you having any input in it.
Mm-hmm.
If you use an engine that you didn't make.
Right. And again, it may be taking up a lot of memory, and they may not, be optimizing it in the way that works for you or works for the platforms you're working on. And again, it's not just memory; it's also other optimizations. Like, there's a lot of 2D engines that use OpenGL, SDL, Love, GameMaker, things like that, and they don't optimize their OpenGL, and you can get into huge problems with performance because they're not optimizing it the way you want, right? So memory, frame rate, these are real challenges, right? Okay. Can we do X? Okay. I get this question all the time from my employees. My art director loves it. Hey, can we put this in the game? I have this great idea. Can we do it, right? He's a dreamer. He's always coming up with stuff, which is great, right? And because we have our own engine, the answer is yes, always yes. It might be, is it worth doing? Is it going to take so much time? Are we going to see some benefit out of it? But yeah, we can do it, right? And I think this is an empowering thing. When you have a team they come to you with an idea, can we do this? And you have to say no, no, no. That's demoralizing. That's deflating, right? And it's not only true if you're the decision maker. It's true if you are working for another company as a programmer or whatever, and your boss comes to you, hey, can you implement this for us? And he's like, nah, no. That doesn't go as well as absolutely I can, boss. It'll take 4 days. Is that okay? Maybe he says no, maybe he says yes. But that's good, right? So we can do anything we want, and we can do it in a way that is elegant and it supports everything else in the engine, right? As opposed to kind of just shoehorning things in, hacking it in. Again, over time, hacks build up and they cost you more time in the long run. So I'm gonna give you an example. So in Citizens of Earth, this is how we kind of did art and levels. My art director has all of his art in Photoshop, all the different rocks and trees and whatever else he's exporting. He exports each image one by one, of course, because we're loading them in each texture independently, obviously. We have to add those images to a tile set, okay? In the level editor, the level designer now has to take those tiles to create a world. In some cases, he's building composite objects out of multiple images, right? So we have things like trees with roots that render under the player, some kind of ground texture, the kind of base of it, which the player can render behind and in front, some kind of canopy, leaves, other things that are above you, and the level designer has to add each of those things manually, make sure they're all lined up. If you move one, you got to move all of them. It's a hassle, right? And again, if you want to add any kind of additional metadata to this object, dynamic collisions, shaders, you're doing it manually, okay? And if you make a mistake, you got to fix it. It's a whole thing. Now we do this. Literally one click replaces that entire workflow. So my artist has his whole thing in Photoshop, layers and groups, whatever he does, presses one button, exports every single image. So then he goes, gets the coffee, whatever he does. It just exports all of them, every individual image. Anything that's a composite object, it smashes together to make one reference image that's put in the tile set. So now the level designer has one object to place, not 3, not 4. And not only that, he can do things. I'll kind of jump ahead a bit. It's not just making us work faster, it's making us work better, because he can add randomized properties to these objects. So again, Event Horizon, we have all these plants and grasses and things, and he can set up parameters for variation, how they change in scale and rotation and hue and saturation, pieces that will be there or not there, like variants, right? Level designer places one tree 100 times, it's 100 variations, all approved artistically by the art director ahead of time. Right? That is super fast. And on Citizens of Earth, we technically could have done that. It would have been practically impossible. It would have taken way too much time, way too much noodling and figuring it out. It's crazy. And again, so all the XML files for the metadata of these objects, shaders, rotational and transformational anchor points, collisions, it's all automatic. And the other big thing is, if anything changes, right? So previously my artist, he changed the art, you're re-exporting hand by hand, every single one again. This time, anything that changes, one click again. Done. Data verification. Anything goes wrong, previously, level designer, it's not working, ask a coder. Coder dives in the code, I see, talk to the artist. It's a whole, you're wasting 3 people's time. Now it pops up, whoop, you made a mistake, go check this, please. Fixes it. Did the randomization right. This used to burn hours and hours and hours. Now it's literally one click, and again, like I said, it's not just that it's faster, it's we're making better games, right? The stuff the designer is able to do now is so much better. We make our world look so much better. And again, we can do that because we own that whole pipeline process from Photoshop through the tools, through the level editor, into our own kind of build time tools into the game. Okay, a couple more examples. Level editor modifications. So we use Tiled. I think it's a reasonably common 2D level editor. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. But we've added tons of features, and now even the community is asking for those features from us, and I'm trying to kind of get them to them. But sometimes it's hard because it's a sort of open source project. But yeah, we use better tools and visualization. So previously, about half the time you're adding an object, it wouldn't show you a preview of what you're adding. So you have to add it and then move it. Add it and move it. Now I just added the visualization. You can see what you add. You add. It saves at least half the time. Right, workflow improvements. So if my artist wanted to change the art and see how it would look in the level, he had to close the level editor, save the image, open the level editor, see what it looked like. Now he just saves the image, it's hot loaded into the editor, sees it on demand. Way faster. Again, the randomized parameters I mentioned. Here's a fun example. Okay, we can do tons of features, right? So I was talking with some friends. They're using Unity. They're making a sequel to their game, Space Pirates and Zombies. If you've played that, it's on Steam. They said, hey, we really wanted to have these multiple audio tracks. We're going to have them, I don't know, saying layering and crossfading, all that stuff. But so this is them saying, I've never done this in Unity, so correct me if I'm wrong. They said, Unity only lets me have one music track per level, or per scene, whatever it was. And they had to add all these dummy levels just to include nothing but a sound, like a music file, right? Soundtrack. and do all this like, horrible workarounds just to get one feature they wanted. And again, that's just one example, but it's the kind of thing where you're kind of doing workaround after workaround and hack after hack. And again, it just builds and builds and builds, right? We have an auto tester in our game. The game plays itself. We crank it to 8 times speed. We run it overnight on every platform. It finds crashes, it finds bugs. We can do that, right? And not only that, while it's running, it prints a binary log to disk with a log of every single input the game has done. And because it's our own engine, we guarantee that our engine is deterministic. And guaranteeing determinism in your engine is not trivial. And other engines, I mean, I don't know if they have it or not. I'd say probably not, unless there was a really specific reason for them to do it. But we can do it, and it's huge. Some aesthetic effects. We have like all kinds of shaders. Like we own the render pipeline, right? So we manipulate vertex data all over the place. We do crazy stuff. You can come check out Event Horizon demo in the expo. Like I know you can do shaders and stuff in Unreal and other engines, obviously. But we can like literally do anything. There's no limit, right? So the artist says, I want this effect, we'll do it, right? We have frame buffer objects all over the place, shaders, like ping pong rendering, back and forth, like it's everything. Game-specific optimizations. So we can optimize the memory model based on practical memory use patterns. We optimize, culling based on like how things move, how things are, presented in the game. Before in the memory thing, I said, resource pools. Like, for example, Citizens of Earth, you have 40 heroes. You can switch to at any time. Well, that's a lot of, loading and unloading if you're switching a lot of them. So we have like slots, memory slots that each character fits into. We know the maximum size. We switch them in and out without any memory allocations. It's super fast. We don't have to wait for any garbage collection, deallocation. The memory allocation part of it is like literally trivial, right? Except for like setting it up, but once it's there, it's great. Okay, here's an example. A little hard to see. Is there an easy way to turn these lights off? So this is just one example from our game Event Horizon. This is a waterfall. So you kind of see there's 2 waterfalls here. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just going to break it down quickly. Sort of a base blue texture in the background. You kind of got this one flowing slowly behind it. These sort of, randomly generated, I don't know, white water crests. I don't really know what I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know what those are called. Right? On the edges, it's hard to see on here, but like there's these kind of thin blue highlights that help kind of make it stand out against the background. And critically, it's the same size on both waterfalls. No matter how you stretch this thing, those highlights stay the same size. That was very important to the art director, because if you make the waterfall big, you didn't want like a big, ugly kind of thing. And same thing if it's too small, you want to make sure it's visible. Same size, okay? The whole thing is distorting. There's sort of like this kind of warbly shade on the whole thing. And again, all these objects are dynamically spawned and masked to this warbling structure, right? They're not rendering on the rocks. There's a gradient as it comes into the cliff. There's a black, there's a gradient here. So there's like 6 shaders going on here. Dynamic objects all over the place. In the level editor, the level designer places one object, just a blue texture. They place it, they resize it any way they want. All of this stuff is added in the pipeline. So, again, on Citizens of Earth, we had not stuff this complicated, but some things, and it was a nightmare. Like, it would need a coder to set it up. It was so complicated. But now level designers can place, these kind of objects with literally one click, size it, you're done. Saves incredible time, and we can do cool stuff that we just couldn't do before. So, just one example, but I really believe in the power you get when you own that pipeline, right? You can look at what you need and you can do it, kind of right. Right. So yeah, control the pipeline. So I've been saying this word a lot. In case you have never heard of it, pipeline is basically everything between like your data and your game, right? So everything that takes place to get your data into the game. So Waveform, our first game, right, had an in-game level editor. Okay, it was really weird and outrageously powerful. So in this game, again. I don't know if you can you still see me? It's so dark in here now. So Waveform, right, you play as a sine wave going through space, okay? If you wanted to create a level for this without being in the game, you'd have to think like a sine wave. Like how are players moving? It's all this smooth, continuous sinusoidal motion. Like, I'm a mathematician, that's still hard to think like that all the time, right? Especially, obviously for our level designers that aren't coders, they're not, mathematicians. So you do this in the level editor. The level designer could have the kind of shape he wanted, pause the game, create objects that are snapped to the wave, create a perfectly sinusoidal pattern, it makes a difference, right? It's perfectly smooth. The player can match it exactly. It's mathematically like just pristine, okay? And you can kind of go back and forth in the kind of timeline of this level and see how things change. How you don't like it, go back in time, fix it, go forward, go back in time. If you had to go leave the game every time and make a change, that would be crazy. One of the things I learned most working with Nintendo, they'd have their guys come over and play the game, and they would play it the same thing over and over and over and over again. They had a laser focus, right? We had Miyamoto come visit us when we were doing Luigi's Mansion, and he was amazing just to watch him play the game. And he would say things like, when he was working on Mario, he would collect a coin, collect a coin, collect a coin, collect a coin, hit a block, hit a block, hit a block, over and over and over again. Like, that iteration is so important. You want to make sure that that feels good. And if you have to make a change, leave the game, rebuild it, go back in the game, load your level, go over to where you had it, do it again. Like, if you've forgotten what it was you were doing, right? Or even if you do remember it perfectly, it still takes way more time, okay? So Citizens of Earth, we optimized art for every platform, right? So again, going from PS4 and PC to 3DS, the memory requirements, the platform is massively different. So we had to optimize our art in the pipeline for every platform. We wrote our shaders in GLSL for OpenGL on PC. We wrote a tool that converts them automatically for every platform, right? So we can make sure we're doing the best possible sort of visuals and aesthetics on every platform without like a lot of work, right? It's all in the pipeline for us. Event Horizon, our latest game, I've mentioned, right? We have new scripts in Photoshop, new functionality in Level Editor, these new features in our internal tools. It's making us, again, not work just faster, but make better games. Like I mentioned, we can change assets, data levels while the game is running. So again, for Citizens of Earth, we had audio designers play sound, oh, not quite perfect. Change it. Like, reload it in-game right now. Hear it again. Need another change, right? It just makes it so much faster to do these kinds of things. And again, our workflow improves dramatically every game, right? Every game we're getting better and faster, not just in speed, but quality, right? And because I know what the needs of my team are and how to address them. An off-the-shelf engine does not know you, they do not know your team, right? You know how to improve what you're doing. People talk about like metrics for monetization, player acquisition, right? We use metrics for development. You track how long we spend on various tasks, and if it looks like, I go to my artist, hey, I noticed took you an extra day to do this task, what happened? And he said, oh, well, I was in Photoshop, hitting buttons or whatever I was doing, and I said, I will fix that for you. That is no longer a problem for you now, right? We're getting better all the time. Okay, kind of an analogy I like is it's like renting versus owning a home, okay? Presumably, people can picture this scenario. In the short term, owning costs more, right? You got a mortgage, you're paying a lot. In the long term, renting costs more. Over time, you will own your home. You're laughing, right? You maybe property tax, but no mortgage, nothing, right? Does your place require some home improvement? Okay, this would be analogous to you're doing new features, new bug fixes. If you own a home, you pay for it, right? Easy. Well, not easy, but like that's the only solution, right? You pay for it, you do it. If you rent, you kind of hope the landlord, or in this case, like the engine licensor, will do it. So before I owned my current home, we rented. The roof leaked. We had mold issues. The landlord was very slow to fix it. We could have paid money to do it. Not really a great reason why. We don't own the home. But this is sort of what it's like if you're renting an engine, and something like Unity, you cannot fix it, right? You do not have access to the code. So in like Unreal, you could actually crack it open and do it. Or Godot, like Clint was showing me, you have the source code. Unity, you don't. And again, like you sort of a lot of times just hoping someone's going to fix it for you. So do you want to rent out your basement? You can like license your engine to others, license your tech. We just got a grant from the Canadian government to make a sequel to Waveform, right? And one of the things they really liked was we had technology that we were leveraging. They saw that as an asset to create jobs. It was our proprietary stuff that we were using, and they really liked it. And we can do that because we have this intellectual property, this asset that we're leveraging to build games, to make jobs. They like it, right? Their government, that's what they want. Can't do it if you rent tech, right? Okay, should you do it? So I obviously have a lot of opinions. I've done it a certain way. It's not necessarily my intent to say this is the only way or the best way. It depends, right? What's your long-term strategy? So I wanted to make games since I was 8 years old. I've devoted essentially every piece of my life from 8 years old to now on the journey to and and making games. It's even survived working 80 plus hours a week for other mainstream companies, and you don't get overtime pay. in the games industry, so I was doing a lot of hours, but I still loved it. I still wanted to do it. This was what I was doing no matter what. So my long-term plan is making games till the day I die, till God calls me home. I'm making games with the skills He's given me, and that coupled with my experience in using and in some cases building custom tech, that made it an easy choice for me, right? I'm investing in sort of my team, my games for the rest of my entire life. Maybe if I have kids, maybe they'll take it over. I don't know, but it's the longest term investment for me, right? That's what I see for myself in my future. But I mean, like I said, you have to kind of weigh it for yourself. Are you maybe making one game and maybe you're out, maybe you're doing something else? Well, then probably you may not want to spend a ton of time making tech you're never going to use. So where do you see yourself, your team, your company, 5, 10, 50 years? You have to kind of weigh the long-term plan to know if it's going to be worth it. Okay, quick review. Building your own engine offers you maximum flexibility, both in-game and in the pipeline. Of course, there's a cost to it, but there's a cost to everything, right? It has kind of unique costs in terms of upfront time, money to develop it, but in the long run, it has a lot of benefits, right? The hard part of making a game is making it fun and successful. So no engine, whether your own or off the shelf, is going to make your game fun, right? It might make it easier to make in some ways, it might give you features, but I mean, this is the challenge with games, right? How do we make it fun? How do we make it successful? How do we make it innovative and capture people's imagination and interest? Like an engine isn't going to help you, so you can't look at it as like a silver bullet. Well, I'm using Unity. Problems are solved. Nope, you still have to do the hard part, and that's making the game. So if you're planning on making games in the long term and you want to control what features you make, what efficiency and workflow improvements are possible, what platforms you release on, maybe investing in your own tech, maybe that makes sense for you. So I want to talk a little bit more specifically about something we're doing at Eden Industries, which is the Garden of Indie. So this is an initiative we started, and maybe you're thinking, hey, custom tech, sounds great, I'm convinced, but whoa, that's a lot of work. What do I do, right? So we want to kind of partner with indie developers to help. So we created this Garden of Indie initiative. So we spent a lot of time and money making our engine, and not only just the tech side, even just making games, like having this experience in that process, in relationships with publishers and distributors, right? And so at the end of all this, we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if others didn't have to kind of go through some of the pain we did, right? Learn from our mistakes, learn from our efforts. So we're trying to do this initiative where we're kind of offering a customized version of our engine. So we help you customize the tech for what you need. And so we kind of like it because it's custom to what you need, but it's also built upon this foundation. So you kind of get these great features out of the box, but custom made for you, since we care about people we work with. Probably Unity doesn't care about you. I don't know, maybe there's some very compassionate people there, but probably they don't. So we're hoping it's kind of the right mix of this kind of custom-built, tailored technology and a core, stable, common feature set. So it's intended to be sort of this strategic partnership, right? We're working together to help each other, right? So it's something kind of between the developer-publisher model, where the publishers just like pay you money or whatever, and you develop it, and kind of an engine licensor, licensee, which is just like, pay me money, I'll give you some tech. I don't care what you do with it, right? So, the point on that spectrum is probably tailored for each relationship. But the point is, we want to help out in whatever, customized, specialized way we can, because, we care about people we work with as people. We want to leave creative control in your hands. That's, we want to help you make your visions, but leverage our experience to help you in areas you might not have similar experience in. So just a couple examples of stuff we're working on. This is all in our custom engine, but they're very different games. Like it shows kind of the quality and flexibility of our engine. So this is Event Horizon. You can play it in the Expo, of course, like I mentioned. We call it an action-focused, turn-based RPG. Okay, that's this genre. Next one is Purgatory Soul Wars. This is sort of the tactical strategy game. Again, very different, still 2D, but kind of just again shows like you don't have to make sort of like the RPG. Like the engine is not just about RPGs. And then of course, like I mentioned, Waveform 2, which is very, very different than those games. But again, like we can do this, and the games don't seem that similar, but again, like they share a lot in terms of like the tech and the flexibility and the way you can build them. And just a quick note about 2D RPGs. So it's probably not surprising that our engine is especially, though not exclusively, very good for RPGs. you allow me a moment of hubris, I think among the world of 2D RPG engines, I think it is very excellent.
He's talking to you. Okay.
Since again, like if you're looking at things like if you think of an RPG or 2D RPG engine, you're probably thinking maybe RPG Maker. We kind of joked during the development of Citizens of Earth. We would implement features specifically because RPG Maker didn't have them, and because we wanted to hit a quality bar that really impressed people. It didn't seem like, oh yeah, they're just doing another RPG Maker game, right? We wanted to be like, no, we're really shooting big. So yeah, multi-platform support, more in the future. Yeah, I love having games on consoles as well and handhelds. Like I love it. It's just cool. I kind of grew up as that kind of gamer. I wasn't really a PC gamer growing up. I was like Nintendo, so having the game on there to me is just really cool. Shaders and visual effects, uncommon in 2D games, especially RPGs. I find again, a lot of games are kind of made RPG Maker. They don't really just kind of like putting down sprites. That's the end of it. We have again effects, shaders all over the place, really pumping that quality. Again, like Event Horizon, we spent a long time making it look good. I hope it looks good. It really kind of shows what you can do in a 2D RPG, especially like an indie game. We have a core RPG library that abstracts commonalities but gives you control over the specifics. So Citizens of Earth, Event Horizon, some of the RPG elements in Purgatory, a couple other RPGs, I'm talking to Atlus about a different one. They use the same, like a lot of the same tech is sort of in this engine, like how attacks work and how quests work, all that stuff. Like the game just configures formulas, right? Because different games have different damage formulas, how you use it. But the kind of the backing is all there. Like it's meant for RPGs. It gives you so much power, right? Powerful and extendable scripting system, so you can script like anything in the game. I mean, you can talk to Kyle a bit more. He did a ton of scripting for Citizens of Earth, making quests and I don't know, dialogue events and everything, right?
What language is the script? Yeah.
So we use XML, and I think XML is reasonably easy. I mean, if you know, it's kind of like web. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, Kyle's not a coder. He knows XML. We had a lot of guys on the team that, again, they're not coders at all. But I mean, XML it's pretty easy. It's like here's like an attribute. One thing we're building now is sort of more of like a tool where you can kind of be like, okay, the next thing I want in this scripted scene is dialogue. So drop down menu, dialogue. It kind of has all the parameters available listed. You can customize them. So that's not in that. We're working on that. But it's pretty powerful. You can extend it. So again, RPG Maker and stuff, like it gives you some tools. I think maybe you can customize them if you crack open the code. I'm not sure. But I mean, we can do anything we want. So if you like 2D RPGs or any 2D games, and I love to chat, love to talk more. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm passionate about helping people make games. So I'd love to see if we can work together. Conclusion: no matter what engines or tools you use, go make games. Right? I mean, I talked a lot about what I believe is how it works for us. But I don't want to discourage anyone and be like, oh, he said not to use Unity. I can't use Unity anymore. No, just go make games, right? Making games is awesome no matter what you do. Keep growing and learning. Okay, like push yourself, aim big, see what you can do, and just wanted to dispel possibly a myth that there is no reason to build tech, no reason to use C++. Lots of game companies do it. Like I mentioned, when I was a kid, I wanted to make games with Nintendo. Right, and I got to do that. I made Mario Strikers for the Wii, Luigi's Mansion, and it was because, I knew C++. Like they use C++. I don't know. I mean, G might know more. Like I can't really think of a Nintendo first or second party that uses like Unity. I know there's like obviously third-party developers. So it depends on your goals, right? Like I said, I wanted to make games with Nintendo. There's a certain, sometimes you have to do it. You can't necessarily, go to a company and be like, I want to make games with you, but I only know Unity and C#. Okay. They will say, no, thank you. Right? So it's good for some things, not good for everything. Bear that in mind. Lots of reasons to build your own tech. Thank you very much. Questions? So like there is obviously a lot of code to write, but we do have like a level editor I mentioned. We use the tiled 2D editor that we have made modifications to. So I mean, again, like the level designers that worked on Citizens of Earth, Event Horizon, Waveform, in a sense, like they're not coders. They don't know one line of code, right? But they build levels and games. So obviously they're not creating new features, like coders still make new features, but we have, of course, an editor to build worlds, to build content, right? Like my artist puts art in the game, he feels, right? He's not a coder, but he can make the game look cool.
Everything.
I mean, yeah, like I'd say, like
That's synopsis right there.
for example, like okay, if someone, a non-coder, wanted to recreate, I mean, an RPG using only the features of Citizens of Earth, right? They could build it with no coder, right? They can build the whole game, the whole world, all the script, everything in there with no coder, okay? Obviously, but again, if so that's what I'm saying. So you can build chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I'm going to do these kind of scripts here. Okay, now moving on. Like now those characters are dead. They're out of the game. All right, forget that. Now we're on over here. You can do all that without a coder. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, but I mean, it's powerful enough that, like I said, Kyle, other people built things. But yeah, if you want new features, obviously, coder's got to get into the mix. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm loading up Photoshop. So I'll kind of walk through, I guess, a piece of how the workflow would go. So this is sort of what, my artist would be working in. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of crystals. And again, these are composed of like tons of objects, right? So let me try to, what's one? Okay, so I'm turning on and off a group there, right? Group here. So you can see there's sort of like 4 different layers per thing. So so we use kind of like very meaningful tags. So these are like lights. So these are inform how it interacts with our dynamic lighting shader. This M is like the mirror mask. So these crystals have different like faces, right? And so we do different mirror reflections on each face that he sets up in layers. Crystal, there's like the ground bits that render under the player. So you can tell it's composed of a ton of stuff, right? And so if you wanted to export all of these crystals, I mean, you can tell there's like at least 4 per one. I mean, I'm scrolling up. I mean, this one has 6, 7, I don't know. Scrolling. I mean, it took him a long, long time. And if he changed the art, he's doing it again, right? And you can tell, so here's some of his notes he's writing down. I mentioned for the hue and saturation variations of them all, that he says, okay, yeah, for this crystal, a hue shift of this range works for his artistic vision of that object. And again, level designer doesn't really matter. He just places them all, and it creates a very organic kind of feel. Okay, so there's, I don't know how many, 100, 200 images, I don't know. I won't bother running it because it'll take a while to do, but he just, just goes, grabs a script. Finds it. You can imagine what it's like to run a script, probably. So it spits out everything. I'll show you kind of what it generates. The laptop is kind of old and horrible, so you got to bear with me here.
See that Windows 7.
Yeah.
You're avoiding the update.
Yeah, I am. I'm definitely avoiding. Well, because a lot of so the new consoles they updated, or I suspect they will update, or I can't remember. Oh, okay, they don't support Visual Studio 2015 yet. We use Visual Studio 2012, but Visual Studio 2015 does not work on this version of Windows. And anyway, so the point being, we always have to keep upgrading to what the consoles support in terms of like Visual Studio integration, stuff like that. Okay.
So you have to use Visual Studio for consoles?
You don't have to, but I like it because we have one development environment for all our consoles instead of like one per, right? And some of them are pretty brutal. They've gotten better over the years, but there have been some real doozies. Yeah, she knows. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this one called Code Warrior by MetroWorks. That one was brutal. Okay, so here's the whole folder that script would have done. Okay, all these different crystals. You look in there. They each have, a PNG. And also, this is Animinals. This is like metadata for how we build it in our pipeline. Again, this used to be manually added, usually by myself. Horrible. And then, like I mentioned, it adds this reference image folder. So this is every object put together, right? So these are the objects that get used in the level editor. And again, before, these objects were manually added as tiles, and now it's done automatically.
So you added an item there, and it's just kind of referenced in tiled, and then when it goes back into the engine, it separates it like it needs to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so the other thing, again, this all used to be manual, but the thing that the export script does now is, let's see here, where were we? Are there crystals in here anywhere? Lochner crystals, maybe this is it. Okay, so here's an example. Let's open it up, see what it says. Oh, apparently I left. Okay, here we go. Edit. All right, what does this say? This laptop. Brutal. Doesn't like having Photoshop open and tiled.
What are you doing?
Okay, so I don't usually write in Notepad, so this kind of is weirdly formatted. This is all automatic. Okay, this comes from the Photoshop script. So we looked, so it has a mirror, it has various shader parameters, the animation component that's using, alignment, rotation point, offsets, It does a color blend over time that it uses to kind of change the pulsing light that I mentioned. It has animation modifiers, and so it changes like opacity and stuff over time, scale, and lights interact with the shader. It also lays sub-objects. So the sub-object, like the ground rocks, it automatically offsets down one, so it renders below the player. Like it just goes on and on, right? All the mirror mass happens. So this used to, again, all be manual for every object. Now automatic. So it's a lot of, nonsense perhaps, but the point is.
How does that come from Photoshop? Like,
it's just part of this.
Like for example, let's say you didn't set something up for my game.
Okay.
And I want something like a wave. I want the thing to look like it's waving.
Yeah.
Using a shader.
Would
I have to rewrite something in the back end, or do you have that already written in like a thing you would say in Photoshop as a name?
Okay, we don't have that particular thing in Photoshop, but you can just add like, instead of like light component, for example, it would be like, distortion component.
Oh, okay.
And then it would just add the shader to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, we don't necessarily, like my artist doesn't necessarily, I don't know, so Photoshop is, the scripting is passable at best. It's not great. So we kind of do what we can, but I don't feel it's very well supported by Adobe, so there's not a ton we can do. Okay, so let me show you crystals here. External tile set. Where did those crystals go? Here we go. Okay, so this tile set, again, this used to all be manually created. Now it is automatically created. You can add it here, so just, okay. Let me just zoom out a bit so you can, okay. Can I zoom?
Look for tile, if you've never used it, you should.
Apparently, I need like a scroll wheel to zoom this out, which I do not have on a laptop. So there's.
Can you do the pinch thing? 0.
No, that's not working. Okay, but okay, you can see there. There's crystals that come in. So you can place it. So again, this visualization that didn't used to be there. If you download Tile now, you don't get this. Right? You cannot see where you're placing it. You just have to kind of guess based on where your mouse is and then move it around. Brutal, right? Brutal. And again, so the level designer goes, hey, I'm going to place some crystals around.
So did you modify Tile?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So where'd that thing go? Okay, so you place the objects. So all these properties here, you can kind of see some of them. Like these are all, again, come from Photoshop, so you don't have to deal with that manually. Let me just turn off something. I think Tile is like, give me some. Oh yeah.
Pastime.
Or pastime. Oh, okay. Anyway, you place objects. You can do cool stuff with them. Level designer places one. It does. Like you tell, all these grasses, like they look kind of weird. There's like weirdly bunched things, but in the game it all works because it picks like random variations, scale, hue, saturation. Looks organic. Looks great. So one click, tons of stuff. If you want more questions, you come find me, talk to me anytime. I'd love to keep going, but yes, we're over time. So thank you guys very much.